Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome to the Mobile Roar podcast, episode number 47. It is the week of May 30th, last week of the month here. We are down a man, you might notice. I am Kevin Kraus here with Fandroid.com. I am joined by the excellent Chris
Chris
Chavez,
Chavez here.
DJ Chrissy Chris. So,
Cookie Chris.
Cookie Chris. So we are, of course, we're missing Joe this week. He is away on his honeymoon. He got married. Congratulations to him. Hopefully, he is having a great time doing what he's doing. I think he was up
Where,
in.
where did he go? Did he go to like Cancun or something? Where?
Oh no, he didn't. I saw some Instagram photos he posted over the past couple of days. It looks like he's in Boston or New England somewhere. I don't know exactly, but uh, not with us regardless. But hopefully he's having a good time. He'll be back with us next week. But this week we got a few things to talk about. Of course, the Memorial Day holiday happened, so some of the news has been a little light. So not a lot has been going on this week, but there was one major announcement. The LG G3, the highly anticipated and highly leaked LG G3, was finally announced officially. I went up to New York to kind of check out the phone. They had an event. They actually had a global event taking place in several different places in London and San Francisco and New York. But got a chance to get my hands on the phone, check it out. If you haven't seen that yet, it's on Fandroid. We have our hands on and some first impressions. But I know how I feel about the phone. Chris, what do you think about it?
I like it. I like everything they showed off. I mean, there really wasn't too many surprises. Like you said before, everything got leaked ahead of time, and um, it was kind of a mess really. And it was almost like LG wasn't even trying to hide anything, and they were almost using the leaks to their advantage and kind of steal some of the thunder from some of the other announcements and stuff that were going on during the time. But I think the phone looks very cool. I didn't get to hold it or touch it. I don't know. They talked about it having a metallic skin. Is it metal? I mean, I know it's like a plastic, but does it feel like metal or?
Yeah, that's interesting. It feels like a plastic back. It's more of a I think there's a metal skin that I don't know the exact details of the construction, but from my understanding, there is like a thin layer of metal that gives it that brushed metal look, but it's coated with some kind of plastic or some resin type material that gives it a matte kind of plastic finish. So I could see the benefits. So you still get the look of the brushed aluminum or the brushed metal, and it's actually, I guess technically is, but
Is
you
it
kind of get the
is it
benefits.
grippy? Was it like very slippery? I know the HTC
It's
One
not
May
slippery.
was.
It's a little bit more of a tacky feel. I mean, it doesn't feel like metal, but it feels some of that brushed effect still kind of comes through.
Mhm.
It's but it's nice because I could see how it adds a layer of durability. The metal's not going to get all scratched up, and it also makes it a little bit easier to clean. Um, and I mean, the way they built it, they're still able to have a removable back cover, so that's nice as well. You can get in there with a 3,000 milliamp hour battery that you can get in on, and a bunch of other stuff in there. But yeah, I mean, touching on the idea of this phone being really leaked, it was just funny before the event started. I was in New York, and the actual event was taking place in London, like the main presentation. So we got to watch a live stream of the event, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners probably tuned into the live stream. So we saw that. We weren't there for the actual thing, but before they kicked off the live stream, they weren't trying to be coy about it. The posters all over the walls said LG G3 Day. There were no secrets about it. The guy who the PR guy that stood up to introduce the live stream was like, "Oh, you guys have pretty much seen this already. Like, you're not really going to find anything all that new out about it, but we just want to kind of show you some of the things that we think are cool about the phone." So, I really liked it
Interesting.
from my time with my hands on. It feels nice. It feels a little big. I mean, everyone's trying to get like a big phone that feels nice in the hand, and it still feels like a big phone. But they did pretty well with the bezel, so it's 5.5-inch screen, but it still feels pretty good, and it's got a pretty good size to it.
Yeah,
The
the one thing that
display,
like all these manufacturers are doing is they're making the top bezel really small. When like the top bezel doesn't really bother me. You could have that like 3 inches. Doesn't really. I don't really care because I could as long as I can reach the corners.
yeah, to the
I mean,
screen.
it doesn't matter. But they put the bulk of the bezel at the bottom, which is like really frustrating all the time. And yeah, I don't know. But the display is 2K, right? And it looked. Looked good. The
That's
pictures.
Quad HD they're calling it. I don't know if it's 2K because I think the Quad HD, I guess,
I guess
I
it's like
don't.
a low. It's like a low 2K is what some people
I think
call it.
it's 4 times 720p, which I
Is like
guess is it's not
half,
quite 1080 2 times 1080p, is
like
it?
1.8K.
Yeah, that's something strange, but um, it is that for the Quad HD display, and Quad was kind of their buzzword for this phone. Quad HD, um,
Quad core.
Quad Core, and they showed us all sorts of stuff to do with
Just a display, because that's what I'm kind of like a big display buff. And I mean, I don't know, and a lot of people are saying like once you hit like a certain amount of DPI, the human eye can't detect anything smaller than that. But did it look good? Did you notice that, man, this looks exceptionally sharp, or was it just
well,
like I
I
can't tell
mean,
the difference between this and the iPhone?
so they did their whole little spiel in the presentation about how, some manufacturers, Apple being that manufacturer, claim that the human eye can't really decipher above 300 pixels per inch or whatever. So they were like, "Oh, that's not true. You need this. You need the higher resolution's better." And sure, most people probably aren't going to argue that a higher resolution's better. Is it necessary? Is a completely different question. But I have to say, when I looked at the phone, like nothing about the display blew me away. That was probably for as much emphasis as they put on the display, and as much as I kind of looked at it, looked at different kind of media samples and things on the display. Nothing about it really like had my jaw on the floor. Like, wow, they put this on a smartphone. Um, Interestingly enough, too, the new UI, which I think is great, they kind of, and I kind of mentioned this a little in my hands-on post about this. They decided to go with this kind of muted color scheme that's a little bit darker colors. Where if it was Samsung, they would probably put very bright, vibrant colors that would really pop and emphasize, their display. But I feel like the color scheme that LG picked isn't necessarily going to highlight the quality of the display because it's a little bit more muted, a little bit um, kind of duller. Not dull like boring, but dull. Just kind of the colors don't shine and pop as much. So maybe that's part of it, but no, the display didn't blow me away. It looked great. I mean, it looked as good as the Galaxy S5 display, which people say is probably the best smartphone display on the market at the time. So it's good. It can hang in there, but I'm not sure if the Quad HD is necessary. But I mean, at this point, that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. That's the one area that I actually am adamant about that I do not like about the phone is that the fact that it's even using such a ridiculously high resolution. And I mean, it's LG. They're trying to be extremely competitive with Samsung, like in their home market, like South Korea or whatever. So anything these two companies can do to like fight against each other, I mean, they're kind of like the underdog out there, even though they have good market share and all that. But they really want Samsung's spot. So if they can put 2K in a smartphone or whatever, Quad HD, they're gonna do it. And it's like whether or not you think you need it, it doesn't matter. They need to like one up Samsung in every single spec and area. And I mean, really, with the Galaxy S5, Samsung kind of set themselves up for that. But Samsung, they're trying to emphasize, fingerprint scanner and heart rate monitor. Well, LG is just like, we got this Quad HD display, more traditional route. Our camera is going to be awesome. And that's kind of what I was more excited about too, was just the camera tech. Because I mean, really, with smartphones, we're seeing kind of just peak. You can only throw so many megapixels. 13 megapixels is more than adequate, but we've had that for the past 2 years now. I think that the original LG Optimus G had a 13 megapixel camera. Didn't really do the phone any favors. The camera was good, but it didn't look any better than an 8 megapixel camera. But with the G3, we're seeing that laser autofocus thing going on for super quick focusing, and what was the other? The optical image stabilization, which is,
Yeah.
they said it was like 20% better than last year's model on the LG G2.
Yeah,
Uh,
the camera's pretty great. The photo samples that I captured, they had plenty of like little displays set up of like colorful fruits and vegetables and stuff you could take
yeah, I
photos of.
love their displays. I like that, and because they had some stuff like that at Mobile World Congress. Um, and it's cool because they always show you a Samsung phone, like a comparison. So they're not just like, take our word for it, da da da. They always put like these actual physical demos side by side with like a Galaxy Note 3 or whatever, showing how their technology is better. And I'm always super impressed because you're like, well, you can just see it for yourself. yeah, your phone is doing whatever you're trying to
Yeah.
show off. It's doing it better. It's
And
really
that
cool.
laser focus is a cool feature. It's super quick. It works really well, but there's like, and I think more will come out on this later, but just for anyone that's wondering, it's actually it's great for when you're getting kind of up close shots, but it's not going to be able to shoot over a distance. They said the optimal range for the laser sensor is about 40 centimeters, so it's really only going to work to its best when it's within a fairly close range of the phone. So if you're trying to focus on something kind of far away,
Oh, yeah, far
if
off.
you're at and that's kind of, I mean, obvious. I don't know. Some people might expect it, but I wouldn't expect it to work at a range of hundreds of feet, or but it works well for its purpose and for the distance that it works within. You can move that phone around all you want and just stop, focus, take your picture, stop, focus, take your picture. Super fast. One of the fastest camera experiences that I've seen on a smartphone.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I was kind of sold on the Galaxy S5. I liked how quickly it focused and would take the shot. Until I tried out the HTC One M8, which everyone's always just shiznitting on their camera, but it is fast, and it's not just fast to focus, which is like almost instantaneous, and apparently that has to do with the whole duo camera, that little secondary camera that they have. But the M8 will take the shot and it saves it super quick. I don't know if it has something to do with the 4 megapixels taking up less, like read time or write time to like the internal storage, but as soon as you press the and it's just saving all these photos, and you're like, oh, this is great. But on the Galaxy S5, there was this kind of like a delay. It was quick to focus, but you take the picture, then it like transfers it over to the internal storage, whatever. And there was an update recently that kind of like addressed that. But I'm curious to see how the LG G3 performed as far as that goes, like burst shot modes and how quickly you tap the thing and it takes the shot. But
Yeah, I
um,
mean, in my experience, like I said, when you were focusing on something relatively up close, the shot was you, especially if you have it set up to be the one-touch shutter where you touch and focus and take the picture all with one touch. When you do that on something relatively close, super quick, like less than a second to get that all done. But if you're trying to focus on something a little bit further away, uh, in my experience with it, again, I didn't have a lot of time to play around with it, but more similar to the Galaxy S5 times. But I was impressed with the camera. I think it looks pretty good, and it definitely functions really well.
yeah, I like it.
Some other things with the phone, though, I don't know if I'm alone in this thought, but I always was hoping that for LG to improve the back button. They have improved the back button in the sense, and I think it's a lot better physically designed. But I was hoping that you would at least, if not be able to assign any custom function, at least have a list of custom functions that you could assign to the back button. That's not in the LG G3. In fact, what they did was by default they took off the custom functions from the button. So by default, the selfie button and the quick note button no longer turned on. You can enable it in the settings, so it's not completely gone. But I was hoping that they could not just settle for what the back button is now and actually increase its functionality and allow the user to choose from maybe a range of different functions to assign to that button. But
It's one of the it's a super helpful feature. Like even on the G2, it has the same thing, but it's so annoying with LG. Like I've noticed that just like the differences between UIs or custom interfaces, whatever, between the LG stuff and Samsung's is Samsung. Yeah, they put all this bloatware. Yeah, they do a ridiculous amount, but they always allow you to customize it. They always allow you to change the buttons around, to do all this extra little things, and maybe sure that adds to the bloat, but I love that about TouchWiz, and that's one of the reasons why I've never really um, hated TouchWiz as everyone else, because it actually adds this whole layer of customized ability that you just don't get with LG. LG's just like, here it is. Sorry, you can't get rid of this stupid brightness slider in the notification area. You're stuck with it forever. But at least Samsung will allow you to like remove some of that stuff, and it's just
you'll be happy to know that in the new UI, there actually, when you pull down the notification tray, I noticed this, you can turn on and off some of the things that show up in the LG notification tray.
oh, that's
So
good. That's
so that's good.
it's so bad on some of the other stuff. It's just it's like the what is it like when you go to your grandma's house and like her Internet Explorer only has like this much workable area, and the rest is all toolbars like from the side and top. That's what LG's doing. It's like you pull down your notification area and you can't see any notifications. You gotta like scroll past 1,000 toggles just to get to your notifications.
Yeah.
It's like so frustrating.
They also added a new widget that is kind of like Google Now type functionality, and I'm not quite sure if it actually just pulls its information from Google Now or if it's its own service. But I mean that kind of is as an extra notification space on the screen. But yeah, so the slider, the drop-down notification drawer has some customization, and I guess the back button that really is something they probably could implement with software. So if enough users want it, or if they think it's a worthwhile thing to implement, I guess a software update could bring the ability to customize the functions of that back button. Um,
I don't think LG's listening, man. I don't know what they're doing over there. They so like in their own little. With Samsung, people assume that it's because they're so big, because they have this huge market share that they're just maybe we don't need to do anything. Like we got market share, no big deal. Where LG is like this underdog, they're trying hard, but they also don't take any feedback. The translation or from like their Korean market. It's weird, but it's frustrating.
I'm hopeful. I'm pretty hopeful. The LG G3, from what I saw, it looks like one of the first times that LG has, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel with every new device, they've just taken what they did well with the last generation and improved it. And so hopefully they're on the right path with that. I really liked it.
I think it's an awesome upgrade. It's not nobody even in the comments and stuff. Nobody was just like you didn't see one comment where someone's like, "Oh, it's just like a small upgrade from the previous version." No, this was like a full-fledged upgrade, and they did it ahead of time. Normally, their flagship releases are towards the end of the year, like October. This one, they moved way up ahead schedule, and they managed to, outdo spec-wise anyway, HTC and Samsung and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I guess the only thing that remains to be seen is if they can up their marketing game and kind of retake some popularity as a smartphone and mobile phone maker, because they've kind of fallen off the map in terms of the public consciousness. But
I think the G3 is going to do it for him, man. I really, really do. Even despite the G2, which is my favorite smartphone right now, just me personally, it's my favorite smartphone, and I chose it over the M8. I chose it over the Galaxy S5. I actually went back to the G2 because it's fast, it's awesome, I love it. But one thing I did notice is it seems like, I know Craigslist isn't really any sort of gauge to kind of judge this, but on Craigslist, I had the hardest time selling like a T-Mobile G2. I couldn't even sell that thing for like $200. Like no one's searching for it, no one cares about it. But the moment you list a Samsung Galaxy S5 or an HTC One or whatever, then you have like 100 people jumping on you, and it's just so ridiculous. So I don't know. Hopefully, this G3 will be their big hit.
I mean, I would say I kind of have a soft spot for LG because as a mobile phone user, some of my first mobile phones were LG. I had the LG Voyager on Verizon and all that stuff. So I always have had a slight soft spot for the company, and hopefully the G3 does them some good. But
little known fact for those watching, we actually, I think before Fandroid got its humble beginnings. Wasn't there an LG Voyager site
LG
or something?
Voyager site. That's yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. The good old days. But that's the LG G3. I'm looking forward to its release. I guess they haven't made any official firm dates available on when you can actually go and get one, but I'm guessing it's not going to be too long. They want to be able to get it out there in time to still compete with the Galaxy S4 or Galaxy S5, sorry, and all those phones. So I would expect it to be out on the market pretty soon.
Yeah, I'd say maybe like in a month and a half or so.
Let us know what you think if you're watching live. We have our questions and comments enabled, so let us know what you think of the G3, or if you have any questions related to something else, shoot them at us. But let's move on right now. The other kind of big story from this week, which is less this week and actually more looking ahead to next week, is that Worldwide Developer Conference, the Apple's yearly conference, which is kind of akin to Google I/O, takes place next week. The keynote's actually going to be on June 2nd, which is early next week, so this really kind of snuck up on me. I wasn't even prepared for this, but
they said it's going to be live streamed, right, for like the first time ever.
Well, it's going to be live streamed, but I feel like it's not like live streamed. It always ends up being live streamed, but they usually just don't announce the live stream. And I think it still is going to be limited in terms of live stream to people that are using Safari browser, iOS device, Mac computer, things like that. So you'll be able to watch it. Of course, a lot of rumors coming out ahead of WWDC, as well as finally, we talked about this probably a couple weeks ago at this point, but finally Apple has confirmed that they are indeed buying Beats, the headphones maker.
Oh man.
They dropped the price to $3 billion. I guess it was like $4 billion before, or maybe like $3.5 billion, but they lowered the price. So I guess they were taking a while to announce it because they were still kind of negotiating
Yeah.
the final price of it. But so I expect at least some kind of something with Beats will be at WWDC. They'll at least be kind of giving us an overview of what their plans are with that. But there's some other rumors about what we might see. I mean, of course, the typical will we see a device announcement, iWatch, maybe Apple TV. Will they preview an iPhone update or release? Some people were saying they might release a 8 gigabyte or low-cost version of the 5S, or maybe some new Mac computers at WWDC. One thing we'll definitely see, most likely, I would put money on, is an iOS 8 preview. So the follow-up to iOS 7. I can't believe it's already been a year since we first saw iOS 7, but iOS 8 is in the works. And along with iOS 8, people are saying home automation is going to be a big part of this, and Apple's going to kind of preview and debut a home automation platform. So those are some things to look forward to.
Excuse me.
Yawning at the Apple news, I see. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to watching the keynote. And I think even if you're an Android or a Windows Phone user, it's something to be interested in.
Yeah, for sure.
See what's happening. And it's kind of funny. I mean, Apple, like, usually you watch these events thinking of Apple as being the trendsetter, but now it's kind of you view it through a different lens, because Apple, believe it or not, seems to have kind of fallen behind slightly. Maybe not behind, but more like on the same level as companies like Samsung and HTC in terms of innovation and playing catch up. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
What do they normally announce at these things? It's like a iPads, isn't it always new iPads? There's iPads later.
Last year it's kind of shifted around a little bit. I think they have at times have announced the actual new iPhones there, but lately, I mean, if you look at last year they announced a new update to OS 10, which was Mavericks, and they announced iOS 7. Both of those things didn't come out till like 6 months later.
Okay.
And I think if they announced any new devices, it was like new MacBook Airs, new computers. And they also announced the Mac Pro, but they previewed it. But they didn't really. That didn't launch until the end of the year, so that was way later. But that's what they had last year. This year they aren't. There's not a huge expectation for new hardware. We might see some new Macs, and they might preview some kind of home automation hardware, maybe even Apple TV. But I don't think we're expecting to see a new iPad or a new iPhone just yet.
Okay, all right.
So we have a question kind of related to this, just comes in from Devin Warren. He asks, do you think Google will announce their Android at home automation at I/O, or just Android Wear and even a new version of Android? I'm not even sure if we'll see anything about a new version of Android at I/O, because they've kind of haven't been doing as much about that lately.
Yeah, I don't think there's not gonna be a new version of Android. Maybe 4.4.3 or whatever that's been rumored to come out soon. So it'll be like a very small release, but not a whole new like dessert or firmware version. It's just gonna be like a small thing, a small mention. But I think the main focus is definitely going to be Android Wear.
Yeah, I think Android Wear will be a big part of it. The Android at home, that's interesting though, because they announced that like 2 or 3 Google I/Os ago.
And that was a long time ago. They made a big deal about it, and they were talking. I think that was when the Nexus Q was announced and all that stuff, and those weird speakers that they had, some sort of wireless speakers they had on stage that they were also supposed to be making, and then that just completely fell off the map. And since then, I mean, I think we've seen like a lot of departures or like shuffling of like some of the execs from Google in the Android department and stuff. So who knows what happened with that, really.
Yeah, I'm sure they still have some kind of interest in home automation and Android at home as an initiative, but seems like it's probably a back burner project at this point. Maybe they'll surprise us and show off some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, now that they have Nest and stuff, I mean, I would think maybe next year, like after they kind of get the ball rolling. But I mean, the whole Nest acquisition stuff was just fairly recent, so I just wouldn't count on it. I really don't think they would have any home automation stuff, but they might have like one of those little sessions, those backdoor sessions that they always have going on in one of the smaller rooms. But I don't think they'll make a big deal about it like during the keynote.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll talk about it or at least mention it. The thing with Android at Home is I doubt we can really expect Google itself. I mean, aside from like Nest, but I don't think we could expect Google itself this year to announce something like a range of home automation products. I think if anything, they would just announce a platform or an ecosystem for other developers to kind of build Android at Home type stuff that would kind of sink into the ecosystem. And we might be getting there. I mean, I wouldn't think it would be crazy or out of the question for them to talk about Android at Home or have anything new with Android at Home, but I don't think it's going to be an emphasis of their keynote.
Yeah, not likely, unfortunately.
All right, so WWDC is next week. We'll be paying attention, and we'll have our reaction on Fandroid, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it next week on the Mobile Roar podcast, because that's always interesting to debate and kind of see who is the winner and loser as of late. And of course, Google I/O is coming up pretty quickly too at the end of the month. But just a few quick things to touch on before we move on to our wins and fails. A couple other things. Again, this is a short week, so not a whole lot of news out there. Again, Apple has made the Beats deal official. They're buying them for $3 billion. They posted a nice photo of Tim Cook and Dr. Dre and all those guys.
I guess the real news for that, I guess for Android users and whatnot, is that the Beats Music is going to remain. They said they're not going to try to kill it off for Android or Windows. I think it's on Windows as well. They said it's going to stick around, which is good for all. I think there's like 100. They have 100,000 subscribers or something, so it's not very many people, but for all the very few people that are still
the app specifically. But in terms of, I mean, Beats integrated hardware. The only thing I've really read about that was HP's line of laptops. They're going to continue having Beats laptops through 2015, but I think they will phase it out as a hardware thing. But we haven't really seen an Android phone with Beats hardware in a while, right? That's pretty much ended.
HTC, yeah, HTC was like the sole guy, and it really didn't help them out very much. But we'll see how it does with Apple.
All right, and so also pretty cool. We saw unveiled this week Google. Google has made their self-driving car prototypes before, and they usually use, on the cars on the street. But this time they built from the ground up prototypes that it's just it's like a little tiny smart car sized car if you haven't seen it, and it has 2 seats, no steering wheel or gas or brake pedals. So
that freaks me out, and I know a lot of people are getting freaked out about that too.
Yeah, I would want to have some kind of backup in case of an emergency. What if your computer?
Anything, dude. Like if God, like freaking a meteor comes down and it's like smashes in LA, you're like, we gotta get out of here. You have to. I don't, even if it was like a tiny little like remote control or like a game stick or manual override on your Android phone, something like it just freaks me out too much. It freaks me out too much, and it's like if you drive around like LA and stuff, there's too many inconsistencies, like in terrain. You might have a huge pothole. I mean, all this stuff going on, and it's just I'm sure they're testing out all that stuff, and they have that camera that like analyzes the road and all that. But that just makes me and a lot of people nervous. A whole lot of people nervous.
I mean, I'm sure, and I feel like they might even run into issues with getting them actually on the roads in terms of regulations. I'm sure lawmakers might make a stipulation that they have to have manual controls in case of things like that, but we'll see what happens.
Right now, the DMV is clearing it. They're saying it's good to go. So in a lot of states,
next year, at least in California and some places. So be on the lookout for the self-driving cars. If you haven't seen the prototype, there's pictures and video of it all over the internet.
Looks like
I'll talk about that a little bit later.
happy little car. It's one of those. What do you call those little rubber cars that you used to ride around when you were little?
Oh my God, like the Play School little cars.
Play School, yeah, the little Play School cars. It looks exactly like that. It's so bad.
Oh, funny. They probably have cutouts for your feet too.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's the
So,
manual. That's the manual override. You just pedal around like the Flintstones.
so the Moto X, a new Rosewood option was released, so you can get the Moto X in Rosewood, and that comes along with rumors that finally a 64 gigabyte version could be coming. Hadn't they been rumoring this 64 gigabyte version for like months at this point?
Yeah, they found mention of it. I guess it was like in one of those Sprint playbooks, so it's kind of a solid rumor. It might be a Sprint only exclusive or something weird like that, but it just sounds like I'm guessing they're probably going to announce for the Moto X Plus One just like normal sizing 1632 gig, and I'm hoping this is a hint that the Moto X Plus One will also come in a 64 gigabyte variety. Like you can customize it through Moto Maker, like 1632 or 64, and that would make a lot of people happy. I don't care what kind of premium they charge for it. I would totally go for 64.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are willing to pay the extra price, especially considering how the phone's slightly cheaper to begin with anyway. So,
Yeah.
also, Samsung is rumored to be launching a standalone smartwatch this summer. I guess standalone smartwatch meaning an Android Wear or one that isn't required to be paired with a Samsung device.
It's likely to still be running Tizen. No one really knows yet right now because Android Wear isn't really made for making calls, doing any other smart related tasks. Android Wear is just mainly bringing notifications or extending your notifications from your smartphone to your watch so that you can easily see them at a glance. But this one is going to be a standalone one that has a little SIM card, makes phone calls. You won't even need a smartphone, and it's been rumored for a little while now, but I guess the most recent rumor is now that it's going to launch this summer. So within the next couple of months, they're still kind of on the fence on whether or not it'll just maybe be just a Korea only release initially, and then possibly see how well it does out there before bringing it to Europe and US and all that. But I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, and I guess it also goes along with rumors that Samsung's supposed to be coming out with a Google Glass competitor. Samsung also just recently, I didn't see too much coverage about this, but Samsung had an event where they announced kind of a fitness platform type thing.
It was in San Francisco. I think it was yesterday. Yesterday it was.
Yeah, it was kind of overshadowed by the G3 and some other things, but so Samsung obviously very committed and entrenched in this wearables marketplace and the fitness. So we'll see how it works out. I think the first thing they should do is open it up. I mean, LG kind of has it right. They're going to release, and I guess the Moto, whatever the Moto watch is.
G Watch.
But
G everything.
The Android Wear stuff, because those are going to be compatible with any Android phone, but Samsung's kind of.
And there's rumors that LG is also making a standalone SIM-enabled version, or that the G Watch might have a built-in SIM card, which sounds really strange and weird. Not really sure what the point of that would be, but yeah, LG might be doing it too.
And finally, on our little quick hits this week, the Asus Padfone X finally coming to AT&T. Isn't the Padfone X? When did that originally launch?
You and Edgar actually played with it 2 years ago.
Yeah, like years ago at Mobile.
It's a long time ago, man. And back then, I think it was just called the Padfone Infinity. So like there was the original Padfone, which we never saw anywhere, and I mean I'm sure it was like in China or whatever. Then there was the Padfone Infinity, which featured the 1080p display on the tablet portion, the dock, and then I mean it's taken a long time, but now they have the Padfone X, which they've upped the specs on. I think when you guys played with it, it had a Snapdragon 600. Now it has a Snapdragon 800, and I mean everything else pretty much looks the same. They kind of got rid of some of that aluminum finish that they had on the previous one, and they put soft touch for some strange reason. But back then I was sold on it. Like when you guys got to play with it, I was really upset because I missed out on it, and I was just like, I can't wait to get my hands on this. But I mean I've been saying that since the original Padfone, and just harping on how it's going to change the world, and this is going to forever change the way we see phones and tablets, and the next Nexus is going to have it's going to dock into it, and nothing I don't know why. I still think it's a great idea, but
So how is AT&T going to sell it? As just a one package kind of deal, or?
it's $200 on a 2-year contract. You can get it through Next, so you can use it as an upgrade. I'm not sure what the full price is, but it's $20 on an 18-month plan or $30
And you get the
on a
dock
12.
and the phone all together?
Yeah,
Oh,
so you
good
get
deal.
the phone and the dock tablet, which is pretty darn awesome. I mean, honestly,
Uh,
if this was just maybe not even a full year ago, I would have been totally all in. But like even 6 months ago, I still would have been considering it because the phone portion itself, Snapdragon 800, awesome, 13 megapixel camera, which is supposed to be pretty darn awesome, and it has this crazy low light shooting mode where it turns the 13 megapixels down to a 4 megapixel, almost like an ultra pixel thing, or maybe it's 3 megapixels, but it shoots in low light, like super sharp and awesome images. They still have some really good technology in this phone. 5-inch 1080p IPS display, which I'm all about. It sounds great, and the phone looks great. The tablet looks great, and I'm kind of kicking myself. If I was on AT&T, I probably still would jump on it, but I've since moved on to T-Mobile, and then now I'm on Verizon. So yeah, a little bummer. Bummed.
all right. So the Asus PadPhone X, it's coming to AT&T. Do they have a release date on it?
Pre-orders start next week. I believe it's June 6th, next Friday. So I'm sure they'll use that to gauge how the demand, whether or not people even want this thing. But you can pre-order it next Friday.
All right. So moving on, wins and fails for this week. I'm gonna start this off. My win. For my win, I'm going with the LG G3 user interface overhaul specifically. In the past, I've said this a million times, I've always really liked what LG does in terms of hardware. I think they have a pretty good eye for that, and they make some good-looking phones. They make phones with some great specs, but they always fall short when it comes to user interface. So the new G3
Horribly.
user interface doesn't have like a specific name that I can recall, but it's kind of, I mean, it kind of goes on the trend of the flat, simple design, so it looks more in line with, KitKat, iOS 7, stuff like that. It looks nice. It's been cleaned up a lot. Seems like they've kind of toned down some of the features, and again, there's a slightly more customization in terms of the notification shade and things like that. Didn't have obviously a lot of time to use it, so this is kind of just an on the surface assessment of it. I think it looks really nice. It still probably wasn't as stock in terms of stock Android as I'd like it to be, but it's about as stock as it's ever been, and I like it. I like the look and the feel of it so far. So we're gonna get a chance to review the phone, and I'll probably have a better opinion of it then, maybe a different opinion. But for now, my win of the week, the G3 specifically, the user interface overhaul. In terms of my fail, Google self-driving car. Not the not the car itself so much. I think it's cool. I mean, ignoring the fact that it doesn't have manual controls, and that might be a safety issue. I'm sure Google's thought of that. But if you actually look at the car, and there's no way that this could have been anything but intentional. The front of it has a goofy smiley face on it. It's got eyeballs and a mouth and a nose, and maybe
Is
they also
that
have
intentional? Did they do any interviews where they're like,
maybe
oh,
they
we
have
wanted it to look happy,
I mean,
and
maybe they have a reason for all of those different things where they are, and it's just entirely coincidence. But I find it very hard to believe this thing is like just a clown face on the front of the car.
it honestly, even if it didn't, I don't know what the nose. Maybe the nose is like an extra. I think the nose is a camera, but
Yeah, I think it's some kind of sensor. It looks like a sensor, but it's definitely like a
it's got that
nose.
mouth that doesn't seem to do
Yeah.
anything. The mouth
They
doesn't
put
have a
headlights.
grill.
They put pupils on the headlights. There's no reason that they needed to have these extra like pupils on the
It's
headlights.
it's a real little toy
And the
car.
mouth thing, I don't think has any purpose other than looking like a mouth. So I think that's
Oh
goofy. That's
gosh.
silly. It's really cool technology, but I mean, a smart car looks dumb enough, and now you want to have a smart
Honestly.
car-sized car that has a smiley face on the front of it, and people run around tipping over smart cars. Imagine how much they're going to tip over these
Oh my
self-driving cars.
gosh.
Except the
Yeah,
self-driving car probably can run away when it sees people coming up to
that's
try to mess with
that's
it.
that's horrible.
All right, what is your win and fail for this week?
So my win is going to be the LG G3's camera, which we kind of already discussed uh, when we were talking about the LG G3 earlier. But Just the whole new camera tech that they got going in on it, and all that stuff sounds great on paper, and it sounded good in their whole press briefing and all that stuff. Optical image stabilization, awesome. All this other extra little things they're doing it with it, but just smartphone technology. There's only so much you can do to improve picture quality. The sensors are small. The sensors are likely never to get much bigger. Smartphones are getting thinner all the time, so I mean, there's only so much you can work around with it. So it's nice to see the competition, I guess, as far as smartphone cameras go, or photography, or mobile photography, and people thinking outside the box. And LG apparently took some of this laser technology from their automatic vacuums, that little Roomba type things, and they implemented that into it kind of bled over into their mobile division now. So that's kind of neat, just to see that technology going on in there. And it's a good idea. It's a lot better than the phase detection that's on the Galaxy S5 and the duo camera, that little secondary camera that's on the HTC One M8. So this seems like it's not all hype, and a lot of people saw that little secondary camera as hype on the M8, but this seems like it works pretty well. And just the image quality itself, I had written a post a little earlier, it was yesterday, and there was a camera comparison between the Galaxy S5, the One M8, iPhone 5s, LG G3, and the Galaxy Note 3, which has one of the best smartphone cameras in the market. But the G3 actually performed well. Like the pictures look great. It looks awesome. So it's not all hype, and that's definitely going to be my win for the week. As far as fails go, my fail is going to be the 2K display on the G3, which I do not like, and I mention it a lot, and I mentioned it a lot in on Fandroid and comments and whatnot, or on Twitter, but I just don't like the fact that they've jumped to 2K. And while all the LG UI elements will look great, LG icons are going to probably look awesome and all that stuff. The YouTube app on Android is still running. I don't even think it's 1080p. I think it's it's probably like 720 still, because it does not look that great on a 1080p display like on my phone. And all this other stuff. So all these other games that are still running in 1080, all these other UI elements that are in the OS, and all this other stuff that is still going on, all that stuff still going to be rendered maximum 1080. Is going to look crappy. When you go to Twitter, you open up the Twitter app, you're going to look at all your friends' avatars, which are already blurry and disgusting as it is. On a 2K display, they're just going to look like this jumbled, hideous mess, and you're just going to wonder, like, what are the benefits of 2K? And really, there aren't any benefits right now. So I kind of wish they would have just held off till next year or something. But yeah, that's just my fail.
All right. So obviously, opinions still mixed about the G3. The 2K display, or the Quad HD display, whatever. I don't know if they've ever actually called it a 2K display, but yeah, stay tuned to Fandroid for sure. We're going to be reviewing that, the LG G3 soon, so we'll have even more in-depth opinions and coverage of that soon that you'll want to check out. Finally, to wrap things up this week, we're going to go through our app picks. I kind of have two. The first one, I just want to mention real quick the Google Camera update that came in. It adds in just a few things, a self-timer, and also the ability to shoot in 16:9 aspect ratio, which is pretty cool. I only really want to mention that because if you haven't checked out on Fandroid, late last week, I posted a little tutorial on how to take better photos with your Android, and Google Camera is one of the apps that I listed as one to look into if you haven't used it yet, as a good, simple camera solution that offers some features and capabilities that your stock Android camera for whatever phone you have might not already offer. So the Google Camera update's worth looking at, and definitely check out the post on taking better pictures with your Android. I'm by no means an expert photographer, but I still think that there's some simple and easy tips to follow to kind of get some better photos. But the app I really want to talk about is a new app called Haystack. I got to give some props to this app. It was developed locally in my hometown of Baltimore, so you normally hear about a lot of tech startups out of San Francisco and New York and maybe Austin, Texas, and different places, but got to give some love to a local Baltimore startup. Haystack, as the name kind of implies, in terms of finding a needle in a haystack, it's an app that allows neighbors to alert their other neighbors to where available parking spots are, because sometimes, especially in the city, especially in a lot of neighborhoods in Baltimore, parking is very hard to locate. So this is a cool little app where you can, if you're just got home from work and there's a couple extra parking spots on the street, you can just mark them on a map in the app, and then your neighbor coming home, instead of driving around the block looking for an open parking spot, can just check out the app. It'll say, there's a couple open spots here. You can drive right there, park. I mean, obviously, they got to be quick and get there in time, but so that's Haystack. It's cool. Check it out. I know it's out for iOS. I'm pretty sure there's an Android version out now, and if it's not out now, it's coming soon. But that just launched this week. And if you live in a big city where you have trouble parking, where you don't have a garage or parking spaces, Haystack is definitely worth looking into.
Sounds like a cool app. I think that would work really well in apartments, because every time I go visit my friends in their apartment complex, it's like the worst experience ever. There's never any parking.
Yeah.
But I guess the app's only as good as
you have to have users, and that's the main thing with the app. I'm not sure if it's already available for every. I mean, it's definitely available in the Baltimore area. I'm sure they probably have some other cities. I don't know if it's all cities just now. It's worth checking into, but yeah, I mean, obviously the app's only going to be as good as the people using it, because if no one's marking open parking, you're not going to have any use for the app. So if that sounds like something that'd be useful for you, it's worth downloading. But that is my app pick for the week. How about yours, Chris?
Mine is going to be Dragon Quest VIII. So I think it was like very early yesterday, people found out that the English version of Dragon Quest VIII, which is developed by Square Enix, this is a game that came out on the PS2, not PS3, PS2 a long time ago, and this was back when I was like a manager at GameStop, and I would buy all these games in bulk, and I still have the game. I actually have the game sealed or in wrapping. I never got around to playing it, and so I was super excited when I found out that it was coming to Android and iOS, and it came out, actually released in the Japanese Android, Google Play Store a while back. I think it was maybe like 2 months ago or so, but so it's been out in the Japanese version, and they finally got it localized for the US. And early yesterday, people found out that it was in the Google Play Store in New Zealand, or the iTunes App Store, I'm sorry, in New Zealand, and that, oh my gosh, it's coming soon, it's going to happen any second now. So I was kind of staying up. I put on my page monitors to kind of keep track of it and see, and it's so cool. I really wasn't expecting it maybe till like next week or something, but I woke up this morning, I saw that Quentin posted about it's finally available in the US Google Play Store and the Apple App Store too. So it's kind of pricey. It's $20.
$20. That's like as much as it costs for PlayStation.
No, this is not. It was like $40-$50 on the PS2, and I bought it. Someone traded it in or something, and I bought it off of them. But that's not bad. It's a full-fledged game. There's no in-app purchases. You're not messing with any of the stuff. It's like 50 hours plus of grinding and leveling up. This is a full-fledged game that's been recreated for our HD smartphones. The weird thing is that you play it in portrait mode, not horizontal or landscape mode, which is kind of strange, but very, very interesting move that they did there. But $20, it's kind of expensive, but Square Enix is kind of known. They have some of the more expensive games on the Google Play Store. There's a couple they already have that are like 15,
$20.
To
RPGs, Square Enix is kind of the maker. So you
this is their thing. Exactly, this is their thing. The game, it's been out on PS2, got rave reviews. Came out on iOS, the Japanese stuff a while back, got rave reviews. Everyone loves it, getting perfect reviews and stuff. So
is it just a port, or is it a update?
It's a port, so like almost a direct port, but again, it's been updated like in HD and stuff. So pretty neat. And now it's in portrait mode for some strange reason. But $20 isn't too bad. I'm gonna use. I think I still have maybe like $8 from a Google Play gift card that my parents got me for Christmas. So I'm going to use that to kind of drop the price a little bit and then just pay the rest out of my pocket. But can't wait. The game looks really cool. Definitely my app or game pick for the week.
Very cool. All right. Before we close out, one final thought, I guess. Wayne Glassglow, who is listening or watching right now, has a comment that I think is kind of food for thought here. He did see the Google car, self-driving car video, and he says that in that video they only show old people in those cars. So I think that is the market they are targeting.
Yeah, they had old people. They had a blind guy who was like, "This is awesome," and stuff like that. But it's clear maybe initially they're only making 100 prototype cars, whatever, off the bat. I mean, Google's not an automaker, so they can't really like mass produce these things right now. But that will probably be who they're targeting initially and stuff like that. They seem like they're pretty cheap, no engine, none of that stuff. It's just gonna have I'm guessing an electric. It's electric powered.
It's gotta be.
Um, but
But then again, Google Glass is $1,500, so.
I think it would make more sense to have these for some of these people than those little electric wheelchairs that you see, like those obese people driving around in. You know, like get them a.
Or you and Edgar at a convention.
Or just me and Edgar just cruising around CES. But yeah, I don't think they're going to be marketed just towards that. There was actually the Uber guy was saying, like the CEO of Uber made a comment saying how eventually these self-driving cars will replace all of their human drivers, and he said like this for a fact, this will happen.
Which kind of sucks because I just read an article this week that says Uber drivers in New York make $70,000 to $100,000 a year.
Dude, no, they make a lot of money. I'm actually going to be moving to San Diego, where Edgar's at, just because my girlfriend, she's an Uber driver and she drives Lyft and Sidecar and all those services, so she needs to start making some more money. So we're probably going to be moving to San Diego soon. Just so she can do that because yeah, they make some pretty good dough. I mean, I might even start doing it on the weekend myself, but I don't have the cleanest of driving records, so yeah.
All right, so watch out when you call your Uber. If Chris is there, it might be
Hey, just rolling up
the other way,
completely intoxicated.
All right, guys. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. Thanks for watching, listening. Again, next week we'll have the full team back. Joe will be back. I'm sure he'll have some opinions on some of the things we talked about today and all the stuff coming up next week. You can check us out on Stitcher Radio, iTunes, the Windows Phone Store. Leave us a comment and a review if you like what you hear. If you have anything you want to communicate with us throughout the week on Twitter, you can hit us with the hashtag MobileRoar, or you can send us an email at podcast@MobileRoar. I'm Kevin Kraus. You can reach me on Twitter at YouDon'tKnowKev, or you can follow me on Fandroid, as well as Chris. He's at GamerCore on Twitter. And Joe, who will be back next week, you can hit him on Twitter at TallSchmo. So that's all we have for today. Thanks for watching and listening, and we will catch you next week.